couple weeks late on this, but Vice President Kamala Harris went to Guatemala a few weeks ago, I think it was 2 weeks ago, essentially to discuss how we can stop Guatemalans from making the very dangerous journey from Guatemala to the US-Mexico border and seeking asylum here. So if you don't know, essentially there are large streams of migrants who come from South America. Guatemala is one of the countries that they typically come from. And sometimes they come in caravans for safety, sometimes they come on their own, but typically they're fleeing violence or danger or some kind of deleterious environment in their home. And so they pick up everything they have and they leave. By the way, I just want to take a point here to remind everyone to stop what you're doing, to look around your house, to think about the people and the places and the things you own that are all here, right? What would it take you? Just this is a thought exercise, right? Think about this for a second. What would it take you? What kind of danger would you have to be in? Or what kind of opportunity would there have to be somewhere else for you to take everything you own that you can fit? You'd have to leave lots of things behind, of course. Away from everyone you know and love. And just pick up and leave. So just think about that for a second. It probably would take a lot, right? You'd probably have to be in some really significant danger to just leave everything you have. And I don't mean just like, oh, like we'll think about going and then we'll make a plan. We're talking about like middle of the night, pack up your shit and go, right? And honestly, that's what's happening with a lot of people who have to leave their countries to come to the United States, where ostensibly there is opportunity here for them. So just keep that in mind as I continue to discuss this story, okay? So Kamala Harris is in Guatemala. She's talking with the Guatemalan president. She's at the presidential palace in Guatemala. And she gets up on stage and she says, I have a message for the Guatemalan people. If you're thinking about coming, don't come, don't come, don't come. And like, okay. That has to be the most tone-deaf thing that she could have possibly said, for many reasons. Of course, the first and most obvious reason is that the United States is the primary cause of most of the violence and unrest in South America. During the Cold War, we spent a lot of our time destabilizing South American governments because we were afraid that there would be a red wave. Socialists and communists would take over the governments, and they would undermine capitalism, and then we'd lose the big bad Ruskies, right? Well, Soviets, but same basic idea, right? So we, as a nation, destabilized many of these countries. So if our response is, hey, we fucked up your country so badly that you have to leave everything you've ever known and loved and run to another country that you've never been to and whose language you don't speak, we caused all that, but don't come, that's incredibly tone deaf and really just like bad. It's just bad. There's no really other better way to say it. One of the other reasons that that statement is incredibly tone deaf is because like the situation in their country isn't any better, right? So forget it's our fault for a second, right? So let's just pretend for 1 second that the US didn't cause this. Guatemala and these other countries kind of went and became violent all by their lonesome. If your comment to a group of people who are experiencing terrible violence that they cannot escape from is to say, don't come, don't come, don't come, but not to offer solutions to help that country, then that's tone deaf too. You're like, hey, your house is on fire. I hear you, I see that your house is on fire, but you can't come to my house, which is not on fire. And this, I'm just not going to say, I'm not going to do anything to help you out of your house that is on fire, but I am going to say, don't come to my house, which is not on fire. Like, what are you doing? So those are two reasons as well. And the other thing, and this wasn't in her speech, and it doesn't really have to do with the statement, but the U.S. response to all the movement of people out of Guatemala into the U.S. is, well, we just need more militarization on the border. Sorry, I thought we voted Trump out of office, right? I thought we had kind of like gotten rid of the vicious and racist and militarized border policies. Did we do that? Did we do that? Anyone? No. We're gonna double down on militarization and carceral policies and putting people in migrant camps. I'll remind you, by the way, the Biden administration did reopen a migrant detention facility, one of the worst. So, like, hey, remember that, like, Democrats are supposed to be empathetic thing or whatever? Like, could you remember that in your speech to the Guatemalan people and not say, hey, actually, not only is your house on fire, you can't come to our house, but we're going to stop you from coming to our house with guns. I just, like, and there might be development aid, coming into this, but there were interviews done with people on the ground, and so I think there is actually some development aid. I think it's like $1.5 billion development aid. First of all, $1.5 billion is not going to fix what we did to these countries. Just flat out, it's just not going to do it. There are fundamental restructurings of these countries that we're going to need to do, or that we're going to need to provide resources for to really pay reparations for the amount of shit fuckery that we engaged in when we were there, right? Or when we were toppling governments and things. So it's just like it's just so tone deaf on so many levels. And really, the thing is, I was in the middle of a thread there. So, there's also corruption issues, right? So even if the $1.5 billion was going to be enough, which it probably isn't going to be, but let's just say for a minute it is, there is fear by the general population that the money will never get to them because there's lots of corruption, right? By the way, now we may not be able to fix all of that, but we may have created the culture of corruption by the types of clandestine activities that we engaged in, right? So again, I can't prove that, and I don't know that for sure, but we're going about this entirely the wrong way. I mean, what we need to do, and by the way, the answers aren't in front of us. It's not like this issue is so complicated that we don't know what to do. We did this before. So after World War II, we took Germany and Japan and we executed the Marshall Plan, named after General Marshall, I believe, who essentially posited that, hey, if we spend a lot of money to rebuild these countries that we have been at war with and bombed, we can make them our best friends ever. And guess what? That's what happened. We spent a ton of money. Now, mind you, we fundamentally changed some things about these countries, right? Japan was fundamentally kind of restructured from the ground up with American dollars. But at the end of the day, Japan is one of our strongest allies. Germany, one of our strongest allies. And we did that by giving them money to rebuild and helping them rebuild and facilitating a rebuilding of those countries. That was the reparations that we paid to Germany and Japan for the things that they had done, that we had done to them during the war. Like, nuking Japan twice and all the fighting and bombing and stuff we did in Germany. But at the end of the day, we were able to turn those relationships around. We were able to make it so that those countries loved us. So what is the solution to turn around the situations of the countries that we messed up during the Cold War? Well, it's simple. We just do the Marshall Plan. We've done it before. We have that muscle, right? We just need to work it a little bit. And we can actually turn these around. We could make these countries great allies of ours. We could make it so that if we really don't want migrants coming, and quite frankly, I think that's not a great position anyway, but if that is our position as a country, we could actually stop them from coming by fundamentally improving their lives in their country. People don't just up and leave their country for funsies, right? Like, think about the thought exercise I had to do at the beginning of this segment about what would it take you to leave. A lot, right? So, but if your life is going well and there's lots of opportunity around, you don't feel the need to pack up all your belongings and just go to a place you've never been with a language you don't speak. This isn't difficult. It just requires us to spend money. And by the way, sure, the easiest pushback to that is, well, the Republicans are never going to do it. Okay, fine, but the Republicans aren't in charge right now. The Democrats are in charge right now, albeit, barely. But, like, we have to have why is it that they can't adopt these positions? Why is it that we can't do these things? If Republicans were really serious about stopping immigrants from coming to the US, they would make the lives of these other countries, make the situation in these countries better, because then people wouldn't come. People come where it's better. If it's not better here, or if it's great where they are, they're not coming. Right? They're definitely not coming in the numbers that they're coming now. So the solutions are in front of us. It's not difficult, but we need a Democratic Party that fights, and it doesn't. And we need a Democratic Party that actually thinks like this. Hey, what have we done in the past that's worked? Like, why is that so difficult for us to do? I don't understand it. And then, of course, you're sending the vice president down to say, don't come, don't come, don't come. With all the context I've just given you, now you can look at that statement and you can say, wow, that was terrible. Don't do that. And I think that's the correct response. And I think if you have the context that I've just given you about what we can do, what we have done, what's going on right now, then you can see a statement like that for what it is. Useless and unhelpful. And I hope that, and I've seen there's a lot of backlash to this. I know I'm very late to this party. So I'm hoping there's enough backlash to this that, someone somewhere has some deep thought about how we should be going forward with these types of situations in future. Because truthfully, this is not how we should be